What do you do when live television turns into a battlefield? When the cameras are rolling, the lights are blinding, and one careless question flips an entire show upside down. That's exactly what happened on a quiet Tuesday morning when Hollywood royalty sat across from America's favorite host, and the world watched respect unravel in real time. The clock hadn't even hit the first commercial break when it happened. 38 seconds. That's all it took for an interview meant to be harmless promotion to detonate into one of the most uncomfortable moments ever seen on morning TV. In that half-minute, laughter turned to silence. Smiles froze in place, and a veteran actor decided he'd had enough. The studio had looked perfect that morning. Bright lights, polished floors, a crowd sipping coffee and waiting for the charm of Samuel L. Jackson. He arrived sharp, composed, every inch the professional he's known to be. Years of experience behind him, millions of fans watching ahead. He'd done this dance before. Shake hands, crack jokes, plug the movie, wave goodbye easy. Across from him sat Michael Strahan, ex-football star turned talk show darling. The man who could make any guest relax with a grin and a joke. But beneath that charisma, something restless flickered. The countdown rolled, 3, 2, 1, and suddenly they were live. The country tuned in, the pressure invisible but heavy. For a few fleeting seconds, everything played like a script. Smiles, nods, applause, then Strahan leaned forward, a casual tone masking something colder. "At your age, Sam," he said. "How much longer can you keep doing those wild action roles?" The sound in the studio shifted softer, tighter, dangerous. You could feel the oxygen leave the room. Samuel's eyes sharpened, his jaw stilled, the warmth drained from the air. And in that moment, the show stopped being a show. It became something else entirely. 38 seconds later, Samuel L. Jackson would do what few ever dare on live TV. He'd stand up, unsip his mic, and walk away. But to understand why, you have to rewind to the moment when that morning sunshine started to burn. The sun isn't even fully up when the Good Morning America studio comes alive. Makeup lights buzz softly, casting warm halos over rows of mirrors. The smell of coffee and hairspray mixes in the air. The kind of scent that clings to television mornings. Crew members rush quietly, adjusting cables, checking mics, whispering countdowns. Everything gleams. Floors polished to mirror shine, cameras locked and ready. The stage looks like perfection. But underneath that perfection hums the electric nerves of live TV. Samuel L. Jackson arrives with the calm of a man who's done this 1,000 times. Dark suit, bold tie, that signature mix of grace and grit. He nods to the staff, flashes a polite smile, settles in for what he assumes will be another smooth morning of small talk and promotion. He's here to discuss his latest film, an action-packed blockbuster he's proud of. It's supposed to be fun, easy, 15 minutes then out. Michael Strahan spots him from across the set, his trademark grin flashing under the studio lights. The man's charm is his weapon, ex-football legend turned daytime superstar, always ready with a laugh or a line. He moves like he owns the room, like every segment bends toward his energy. Robin Roberts sits to his left, radiating warmth, steady as always. George Stephanopoulos, polished and precise, reviews his notes on the far side. Together, they're the morning show dream team. It's a well-oiled machine. Every cue rehearsed, every camera angle planned. The audience filters in. Polite chatter filling the space. Somewhere in the control booth, a producer whispers through the headset. "We're live in 5. The lights blaze. The countdown begins. 3, 2, 1. Good morning, America." Michael's voice booms with practiced enthusiasm, and welcome back. Joining us today, the one and only Samuel L. Jackson. Applause ripples through the studio. Samuel grins, nodding slightly. He looks comfortable, relaxed, maybe even amused. This is his zone. He's been on talk shows longer than some of these crew members have been alive. Michael leans in, eyes sparkling, playing the friendly host. "So Sam, your new movie, man, it's wild. Explosions, fights, you doing stunts, you're running, jumping, doing all kinds of crazy stuff out there." Samuel chuckles, easing into the banter. "Yeah, I still got a few moves left." Then Michael drops it. Same grin, same easy tone, but the words land heavy. "At your age, though, how much longer can you keep doing that?" For a split second, nothing moves. The question hangs in the air, sharp and awkward. Robin's smile flickers. George glances down at his papers. A single cough from the audience cuts through the silence. Samuel's expression shifts. The warmth drains from his face, replaced by something cooler, harder. His eyes narrow just enough for the camera to catch it. "My age," he repeats slowly, voice smooth but edged with steel. "I didn't realize there was an expiration date on passion. The laughter that follows isn't real. It's thin, forced, the kind that fills silence instead of joy. Robin jumps in quick, gentle. I think what Michael means is that you've been doing this for so long and you still bring that incredible energy. How do you keep that going? Michael waves her off with a half laugh, tone slipping towards smug. No, no, I meant what I said. I mean, Sam's been in the game, what, 40 years, 50. You got to start thinking about slowing down at some point, right? You can feel the room change, the brightness dims, the energy thickens. George shifts in his chair, uneasy. Robin's hand twitches toward Michael's arm as if to stop him, but it's too late. Samuel sits back, silent for a beat too long. His jaw tightens. The cameras catch the flicker of disbelief, half anger, half restraint. The first crack appears in the glass. It's small, almost invisible, but once it's there, you can't unsee it. The tension hums low, quiet, dangerous. Everyone on set feels it, even if no one dares to say it out loud. Something's coming, and no amount of TV charm can stop it now. The silence stretches until it starts to hum. Every eye in the studio locks on Samuel L. Jackson, waiting for his next move. He's still, unnervingly still, his fingers resting lightly on his knee, his voice low when it finally comes. You know, Michael, he says slowly, every syllable deliberate. I've been doing this for decades. I've earned my place here. His tone isn't loud, but it slices through the air sharper than any shout. The kind of calm that makes people lean forward without realizing it. Michael laughs, too loud, too forced. Come on, Sam. You know what I mean? You're not exactly a spring chicken anymore. The words sound light, but the smirk ruins it. Robin's hand twitches again. George glances toward the control booth, the producers frozen behind the glass, not daring to breathe. The brightness of the set seems to dim. The cheerful morning glow replaced by a tension that feels heavy, almost visible. Samuel doesn't smile. His eyes, usually so full of life, narrow slightly. The rhythm of his voice changes lower, steadier, harder. I know exactly what you mean, he says, leaning forward just enough for the camera to catch the sharpness in his gaze. But I'm not sure you do. The air crackles. A few nervous laughs from the audience fade almost instantly. Michael keeps going, smiling like he's immune to the chills settling around him. Look, I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. You've had an amazing run, man. 40, 50 years. That's a hell of a career, but at some point you got to start thinking about passing the torch, right? Robin cuts in quickly, her voice tight but kind. What we're trying to ask. Michael interrupts, waving a hand without even looking at her. No, Robin, I'm asking a real question here. That's when it shifts. The charm's gone. His voice hardens, pushing instead of playing. At what point do you look in the mirror and say, maybe it's time to let the young bloods take over? The audience murmurs. You can feel it. Embarrassment, disbelief. The vibe has flipped completely. Samuel exhales through his nose, a soft sound but with the weight of a warning. He tilts his head slightly, eyes locked on Michael. You really want to go there? Michael shrugs, pretending innocence. Hey, I'm just being honest. Robin's smile is gone now. Her voice trembles slightly when she speaks. Michael, that's enough. But Michael doesn't stop. Ego takes the wheel. What? I can't ask a simple question. I thought that's what we do here. Honest conversation, right? George shifts in his seat, his fingers tightening around his cards. He looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. Samuel leans back, expression unreadable. Honest conversation is one thing, he says slowly, but there's a line between asking questions and disrespect. The words land like a punch. Michael raises his hands, trying to play the victim. Whoa, 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 hold on. I'm not disrespecting anyone. You're taking it too personally. The camera zooms in on Samuel's face. You can practically feel the temperature drop. His jaw tightens, the calm before the storm. You're questioning my value because of a number. He says, that's not honesty, Michael, that's arrogance. The audience gasps, soft, collective, impossible to ignore. Someone whispers in the back row. Robin closes her eyes briefly, as if wishing herself invisible. Michael leans forward, voice dropping into that defensive tone that always makes things worse. Man, I'm just keeping it real. You can't act like age doesn't matter. People talk about it. Samuel's lips press into a thin line. People talk about a lot of things. Doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. Robin tries again, desperate to pull the show back from the brink. Gentlemen, maybe we should. But Strahan cuts her off again. No, no, I'm not done. You've been doing this forever, Sam. Maybe people just want to know if you're ready to take a step back, that's all. Now the air is razor thin. Even the camera crew hesitates to move, afraid to break the tension. Samuel's voice drops lower, quieter, but every word hits like a hammer. You know what, Michael? Maybe learn what respect is before you question someone's worth. It's like the whole studio exhales at once. A sharp gasp ripples through the audience. A woman in the front row covers her mouth. Robin freezes mid-sentence. George looks like he's about to intervene, but doesn't. Michael blinks, startled, but he hides it behind a grin. "Wow," he says, shaking his head. "Touchy, huh? I didn't realize asking tough questions was off limits." Robin's tone softens, pleading now. "Michael, please," he ignores her. "Guess it's true what they say. Some people just can't handle a little heat." Samuel doesn't move. His stillness is louder than any outburst. His eyes stay locked on Michael's, calm, unblinking, dangerous. The silence feels alive, stretching longer, heavier, until it feels like the studio itself is holding its breath. Robin leans forward slightly, her voice trembling. "Michael, that's enough." But Michael, blind to the warning, too far into stop, keeps talking. "Come on, man, don't act like you're some untouchable saint. Everyone's got to retire sometime. That's life." Samuel's smile is cold, humorless. "Everyone's got to learn respect sometime. That's life, too." For a moment, there's no sound, no laughter, no movement. Just that look. Samuel's gaze, Michael's forced grin, Robin's anxious eyes, George's nervous shifting. The kind of moment that makes people remember exactly where they were when it happened. And then with one blink, the tone of the show changes forever. The morning brightness, the charm, the warmth, it all dissolves, leaving only two men staring each other down across a coffee table. One holding his ground, the other too proud to see he's already lost. The silence is brutal. The audience feels it. America feels it. And somewhere in that charged quiet, the morning show stops being morning television. It becomes something else entirely. A slow-motion collision between ego and dignity. Broadcast live for the world to see. For a moment, no one moves. The air feels heavy, like the walls themselves are holding their breath. Samuel L. Jackson sits there, posture still as stone, eyes fixed on Michael Strahan with the kind of calm that makes everyone else nervous. You can feel the tension vibrating through the cameras, the studio lights, the crew frozen in place behind their lenses. Robin's hands twist in her lap. George glances toward the control booth, mouthing something the producers are too stunned to answer. Then quietly, Samuel exhales. He reaches down and unclips his mic. The soft click of metal against fabric cuts through the silence louder than any shout. The sound man freezes mid-step. Samuel doesn't look at anyone. He doesn't have to. The decision is written all over him. "Real journalists don't ambush their guests," he says. His voice low, steady, dangerous, the kind of tone that slices through arrogance like a blade through silk. Real journalists don't use their platform to belittle people. He places the mic on the coffee table, just a gentle drop, but the thud echoes through the studio. It's the sound of finality. For a heartbeat, nobody reacts. Then a slow ripple of applause starts from the back row of the audience, hesitant at first, then building, swelling into something louder. Robin's eyes glisten. George leans back, his expression somewhere between disbelief and despair. Michael forces a smirk, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Oh, sure, walk away." "Real mature, Sam." Samuel stops mid-step, turning his head slightly, just enough for his voice to carry. "I respect myself too much to entertain this nonsense," he says. "You think this is pressure, Michael? This." He gestures around the studio, the cameras, the audience now silent again. "This is just sad." The words hang in the air like smoke, thick and heavy, impossible to clear. He straightens his jacket, smooths the cuffs, and walks toward the edge of the set. Not a rush, not a flinch. Every step deliberate, calm, dignified. The audience watches wittied as Samuel L. Jackson, the man who's faced villains, explosions, and cinematic chaos, chooses to walk away from something far uglier. Disrespect. Cameras keep rolling. Robin calls after him softly. "Samuel, please," but her voice breaks before she can finish. George starts to rise from his chair, unsure if he should follow or stop him. Michael leans back, still clinging to his fake grin, but his eyes betray him. Anger, embarrassment, something darker, so that's it. "You're really walking off. You're proving my point, man. Can't handle a little heat, huh?" Robin snaps her head toward him, her patience gone. "Michael, stop talking," she says sharply. "You're making it worse." He shrugs, but his laugh comes out wrong. Tight, forced, hollow. "Oh, come on, everyone's thinking it, Michael." George cuts in, his voice hard, louder than usual. "That's enough, but the damage is done." The audience isn't clapping anymore. They're watching in stunned silence as Samuel reaches the exit, the doors parting just as the stage lights catch the sight of his face. He doesn't look back. The producers in the booth are panicking, voices overlapping in a mess of static. "Cut to commercial," one says. Now. But the floor crew hesitates because this right here is live television history unfolding, and no one wants to be the one to pull the plug. Robin stands taking a step toward the camera, but her expression says everything: heartbroken, furious, ashamed. Michael, she says again, quieter this time, just stop. He doesn't. What? I'm the bad guy now. I ask a question. He throws a fit, and I'm the problem. His voice echoes across the stage, bouncing off the walls of what used to be the friendliest set in America. George rises fully now, his face tight with control. We're going to break, he says through clenched teeth, signaling to the control booth. Michael laughs again, but there's no joy in it. No confidence. You all saw that, he mutters, glancing at the audience. Hollywood can dish it out, but can't take it. Robin slams her cue cards on the table, the paper snapping like thunder. Enough. The word echoes, sharp and final. You've done enough damage for one morning. Samuel's footsteps fade down the hallway beyond the set. The audience breaks into scattered applause again. Some supportive, some uncertain, all shaken. George looks straight at the camera, professionalism barely holding. We'll be right back, he says evenly, but his voice trembles on the last word. The red light on the camera fades. The broadcast cuts to black. But inside the studio, chaos doesn't stop. Crew members rush in different directions, whispers turning into shouts. Robin sinks back into her seat, rubbing her forehead like she's holding back a headache that's been building for years. Michael sits stiffly, arms crossed, his eyes darting toward the control booth where producers glare at him through the glass. For the first time all morning, he looks uncertain, smaller somehow. Robin looks up, her voice low but filled with anger. Do you even realize what you just did? Michael stares at her, defensiveness flaring again. I did my job. George lets out a breath that sounds like surrender. No, Michael, you lit a match and threw it at the whole damn show. Outside the studio doors, Samuel's car pulls away, the city sunlight catching on the windshield. He doesn't look back, doesn't wave, doesn't say a word. He doesn't need to. Inside, the applause still lingers faintly, the echo of respect reclaiming the space he just left behind. In the silence that follows, Robin whispers almost to herself. He handled that better than any of us could have. No one answers. The hum of the lights fills the void where laughter used to be. The cameras are off, but the damage is permanent. Somewhere out there, millions of viewers are watching their screens, replaying that moment over and over. The legend didn't shout. He didn't argue, he just stood up, spoke his truth, and walked away. And somehow that silence said everything. The commercial break feels endless, but not long enough to fix what just happened. Behind the scenes, chaos hums like static producers barking into headsets, camera operators pretending not to make eye contact, the control booth scrambling for damage control. No one knows what to say. No one knows how to move forward. The air still feels scorched from Samuel's walk-off, and every second that ticks by only makes the silence heavier. Then the red light flashes again. They're live. Robin straightens her papers with shaking hands. George inhales deeply, eyes locked on the teleprompter, but the words don't help. The studio audience sits in stunned quiet, the kind that usually follows a car crash. Robin forces a smile, her voice tight but steady. Welcome back, she says. As you can see, we've had an unexpected turn of events this morning. George steps in, his tone calm but taut, holding the show together by sheer willpower. We at Times Good Morning America Times want to take a moment to apologize to our guest, to our viewers. What happened earlier doesn't reflect who we are or how we treat the people who join us here. Robin nods. Samuel L. Jackson is one of the most respected actors in the world. He's earned that respect. And this morning he didn't receive it. It lands like a gavel. Michael sits between them, jaw locked, eyes forward, lips pressed tight. He doesn't say a word. The camera lingers on him for a split second before cutting away, but the damage is already visible. He's been benched silent on his own show. The producers' call came through during the break, short and brutal. Asterisk, let Robin and George handle it. Michael says nothing. Asterisk. Robin's voice softens, but her words hit with quiet force. It's our show, Michael, not yours. There's a pause, half a heartbeat of naked truth hanging in the air before she turns back to the camera, her tone smoothing out again, but everyone on set feels it. That one line just redrew the power map of the entire show. The broadcast limps forward. The next segment, some chef promoting a fall recipe, plays like a hostage situation. The chef's hands shake as he chops onions. His laugh cracks halfway through a sentence. Robin tries to keep things light, but the energy is gone. The air too dense with leftover tension. George nods along, robotic, his smile stretched thin and unconvincing. In the control booth, a producer whispers, "This feels cursed, and he's right." The weather report comes next, but the meteorologist rushes through it like he's late for a flight. His hands move too fast across the map. We're seeing some scattered showers in the northeast. Anyway, back to you, Robin. He's off-screen before the cue ends. The camera cuts back to the couch. Robin's expression is professional, but her eyes look tired. George shifts papers that don't need shifting. Michael still hasn't spoken. He stares at the desk, unmoving, the picture of a man trying to look in control while everything around him burns. From the audience, someone coughs. The sound echoes through the microphone like a gunshot in a church. Between segments, the floor crew moves quietly, heads down, whispering as they adjust lights and cables. Is he fired? One asks. Not yet, another murmurs. But give it a day. Back in his chair, Michael doesn't look at anyone. His fingers drum against his thigh, the rhythm restless, angry. Robin keeps her distance. George avoids his gaze. The polite small talk that usually fills commercial breaks has evaporated. No jokes, no chatter, just that heavy unspoken question. Times what happens now asterisk. Halfway through the next break, Michael stands abruptly. No warning, no cue. He walks off the set, his footsteps echoing through the stage. The door slams behind him, the sound sharp enough to make someone in the back row flinch. No one follows. Robin exhales, the weight of the morning finally catching up to her. She leans toward George, her voice barely above a whisper. What a disaster. George nods, his face pale under the lights. I've never seen anything like that, he mutters. Not on live television. The last segment drags on, but no one's really there. Every smile feels rehearsed. Every laugh dies too quickly. Even the studio audience looks like they're waiting to be released. The clock on the wall ticks louder than the conversation. When the final credits roll, Robin reads her closing lines carefully, her professionalism flawless, but her eyes betray exhaustion. Thank you for watching Times. Good morning, America, asterisk, she says softly. Well, see you tomorrow, George adds. Have a good day, everyone. The words feel mechanical. The cameras fade to black. The moment the feed cuts, Robin slumps back into her chair. The lights dim slightly as crew members start to move again. Their whispers turning into low murmurs. No one claps, no one smiles. The tension doesn't fade. It just shifts, settling like dust after a bomb. Through the glass wall of the control booth, the producers are already on phones, calling executives, drafting statements, trying to patch the unpatchable. George loosens his tie, staring blankly at the floor. Robin looks toward the empty chair where Michael, Saturday, he's going to blame everyone but himself, she says quietly. George doesn't answer. Somewhere in the building, a door slams again. The echo carries faintly across the set, and for a moment everyone goes still. Then the silence returns, thick and heavy, swallowing everything. The show may be over, but the fallout has only just begun. By the time the studio lights dim and the crew starts packing up, the story has already escaped the building. What happened on that set doesn't stay on that set. Not in the age of smartphones. Not when every second of live television can be clipped, uploaded, and shared before the credits even roll. Within minutes, the internet catches fire. Number respect Samuel Jackson rockets to the top of X, formerly Twitter, like a digital explosion. The clip of him unhooking his mic, the quiet authority in his voice, the line that sliced through morning TV politeness. Real journalists don't ambush their guests, spreads across every feed. On TikTok, fans remix it with dramatic music. On YouTube, reaction videos pop up by the hour. Even Instagram reels are flooded with slow-motion edits of Samuel walking off, applause rising behind him like an anthem. The world takes sides almost instantly. Michael Strahan was just doing his job. One post reads, if celebs can't take tough questions, maybe they shouldn't come on live TV. Seconds later, another reply, doing his job. That wasn't journalism. That was disrespect, plain and simple. Samuel handled it like a pro. Comment threads ignite into full-blown arguments, tweets, quote tweets, hashtags, GIFs. One side defending Michael's right to ask honest questions. The other calling him smug, arrogant, out of touch. Memes spread like wildfire, screenshots of Robin's horrified face, George's frozen stare, Michael's forced grin. People pick apart every word, every glance, every breath. The court of public opinion is in session, and it's ruthless. Inside ABC headquarters, panic mode kicks in. Conference calls, red alerts, urgent emails labeled Times crisis response asterisk. Executives cram into a glass-walled boardroom, faces drawn and tense. No one has coffee, just bottled water and anxiety. Someone clicks play on the viral clip again, the sound echoing across the room. The silence afterward feels heavier than the footage itself. We need a statement, one executive says, rubbing his forehead. Immediately, another voice sharper. We can't throw Michael under the bus. He's part of the brand. A third cuts in colder, the brand's already on fire. Meanwhile, Robin Roberts sits alone in her dressing room, still in full makeup, staring at her reflection. The fluorescent lights above her buzz faintly, almost tauntingly. She replays the morning in her head. The moment she could have stopped it sooner, the time she hesitated, the things she didn't say. I should have stepped in faster, she whispers to herself. Guilt presses on her chest like, wait. Across the hall, George Stephanopoulos leans against his desk. Tie loosened, eyes glazed over. His phone won't stop. Buzzing texts from producers, old colleagues, even competitors. Everyone wants to know how it happened, what went wrong, who's to blame. But he doesn't have an answer. After decades of live television, he's never seen anything unravel so completely, so fast. Michael's dressing room door slams shut. He's pacing, muttering under his breath, voice rising and falling. Oversensitive, that's what it is. They're all oversensitive. His phone lights up with notifications, mentions, messages, media requests, but he ignores them. His reflection stares back from the mirror, jaw tight, eyes wild. I just asked a question, he says again. Louder this time, like if he repeats it enough, it might sound true. Outside, the hallway hums with whispers. Crew members pass by quietly, eyes averted. No one wants to be the first to talk to him. And somewhere across Manhattan, Samuel L. Jackson is already gone. No interviews, no statements, no damage control, just gone. He left the building with the same composure he carried through. The confrontation, silent, dignified, unbothered. His team tried to reach him, but he didn't need to talk. He didn't need to tweet. The truth had already spoken for itself. The footage told the story better than any PR statement ever could. As the day stretches into afternoon, news outlets swarm the moment like vultures circling fresh drama. Entertainment anchors dissect it frame by frame. Analysts weigh in on tone and context. Former TV hosts share stories about crossing the line. Commentators label it everything from a masterclass in grace under fire to a meltdown in real time. By evening, every network is running it. ABC News, CNN, TMZ. Even late-night comedians slip in jokes during their monologues. But the tone isn't mockery, it's fascination. Because it's not just a viral clip anymore. It's a cultural flashpoint. In living rooms across the country, viewers argue about it like it's politics. At diners, cab drivers, office break rooms, everyone has an opinion. But under all the noise, one truth stands out clearly. Samuel didn't lose his temper. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't insult anyone. He just stood his ground, drew a line, and walked away. That restraint becomes the story. Commentators start calling it the walk-off heard around the world. Editorials frame it as a lesson in dignity. Hashtags evolve. Number respect Samuel Jackson turns into number walk with Sam, a slogan of sorts for self-respect and boundaries. Meanwhile, inside the GMA building, the mood sinks deeper into unease. Robin stays late, still thinking, still blaming herself. George quietly packs up and leaves without saying a word. Producers avoid eye contact in the hall. Michael's door stays closed, but the sound of pacing never stops. By midnight, the internet has moved from outrage to reflection. People quote Samuel's words, posting them over black backgrounds. Asterisk, real journalists don't ambush their guests. Asterisk. Some call it a line that should be taught in media ethics classes. Others just call it truth. Somewhere in the quiet of that same city, Samuel sits back in the backseat of a car watching the skyline drift past. The world is shouting his name, but he doesn't say a word. He doesn't need to. Dignity doesn't need a microphone, it only needs a moment, and he just owned it on live television. By the next morning, the moment has already cemented itself in pop culture history. The clip is everywhere. An endless loop playing across talk shows, morning news, late-night recaps, even college media classes dissecting tone, body language, and control. Analysts slow the footage down frame by frame, studying the micro-expressions on Samuel's face, the tightening of Michael's jaw, the split second when everything shifted. Commentators call it a masterclass in self-respect. The moment dignity stood taller than ego, a live television reckoning. Every outlet runs with the same conclusion. Samuel didn't just walk off a set, he walked straight into legend. Michael's reputation, on the other hand, begins to crumble in slow motion. What started as morning banter now reads like arrogance, his smile like a mask slipping on live TV. The network's PR team floods the internet with statements about passionate journalism and unfortunate miscommunication, but none of it sticks. The audience saw what they saw. Behind closed doors, meetings stretch into hours. Executives argue over whether Michael needs to issue a public apology. Some think it's too late. Others think it's the only thing that might stop the bleeding. In the meantime, sponsors quietly start asking questions. Robin Roberts sits in her dressing room long after the lights go out, sipping cold coffee, her reflection softer now. George Stephanopoulos leans in the doorway, arms crossed, that knowing look of someone who's seen too many storms. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Robin nods, eyes distant. "I keep thinking about him," she says, "the way he handled it. No yelling, no grandstanding, just calm, strength, and truth." She lets out a faint breath, the kind that carries both awe and regret. That's what grace under fire looks like. George nods. "Yeah, and that's what the audience saw, too." Out in the world, people start using Samuel's moment as a benchmark. Articles headline with variations of times. When to walk away, asterisk podcasts analyze it as a case study in emotional intelligence. Students quote him in essays about professionalism. The clip becomes shorthand for boundaries, for knowing when silence is more powerful than argument. Somewhere in Lowe's Angels, Samuel sits in a quiet room, sunlight spilling through half-open blinds. He hasn't said a word publicly. He doesn't need to. The world has already filled in the blanks for him. The dignity he carried out of that studio speaks louder than any interview or tweet ever could. As the final footage replays on screens across America, the image lingers Samuel L. Jackson's silhouette leaving the Good Morning America stage. His stride is steady, shoulders squared, head held high. The applause fades, but the impact doesn't. And as his figure disappears beyond the edge of the frame, a voice seems to echo through the static of that broadcast. Soft, but unshakable. In an industry obsessed with staying on screen, Samuel L. Jackson reminded everyone, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away.